What you're looking at right now is a Stroop test generator for the Stroop test. The way it works is you say the name of the color, not the name of the text. So for example, you would not read this as red, green, blue, but instead you would read this as orange, green, green. And doing this at speed is actually really hard. So here's me going from left to right trying to read this. Here we go. Red, yellow, green, purple? Blue, black, orange, brown. You get the point. It messes with your brain. So what I want to do in this video is show you how to make a Stroop test generator that you can control the speed of, the seed of, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So if this is interesting to you, keep watching. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. More about them at the end of the video. Okay, let's make a simple Stroop test using geometry nodes. To do this, we're going to select our cube, go to GeoNodes, and apply a GeoNodes modifier. Because again, geometry nodes is a modifier. And in this GeoNodes, we need to do two things for the Stroop test. First of all, we need to display text randomly, whether it be red, green, blue, orange, whatever. And second of all, we need to display a color randomly, independent of what that text is. Again, red, green, blue, whatever. Let's start off by showing the text. To do this, I need to do all my text options. So we are going to do a string to curve. And for this, let's just go with 3 colors, but we can get more intense pretty simply. So first of all, we have the color red, or really the text red. It's important to distinguish between the two. I'm going to center this, and I'm going to center it in this axis as well. And boom, we have red. Let's add 2 more options. I'm just going to duplicate this. For this one, I'm going to type in green, and I know you could just put in a string and switch between them. I'm going to do it this way because it's simple. It's not too complicated with the nodes. So here we have red, green, and blue. And really, what we need to do is make a way to randomly select between these. That's kind of the complicated part. So first of all, how do we actually switch between them? Switch. That's how we do it. So I'm going to add in a switch node, which is exactly what is going to let us pick between one or the other. Now, it would be cool, and you can see what this does, is it goes between true and false. It'd be nice if our switch node had 3 sockets. It does not, so we need to make a custom switch node that has 3 sockets. To do this, I'm going to add another switch. So that now we have 2 checkboxes. This one goes between red and green. This one goes between the output and blue. So even if this is green, it's independent of it. Okay? And somehow we need to use these 2 switches to pick randomly between the 3. Well, here's how we can do that. I'm going to add in a value node. And this is going to be our controller. If it's set to 0, make it red. So 0 is red. If it's 1, make it green. And if it's 2, make it blue. So 0, 1, and 2. So what I can do is I can use an equal to node, or we need to actually do it this way, an equal to node to actually check what this value is. So first of all, if it's 0, then fine, keep it at red, like I said. But if we want to turn it green, we need this checkbox enabled. So we need to know when this is equal to 1, and if so, connect it to the switch. Second of all, we need to know if when it's equal to 2, this should be enabled, right? So we're going to check, is it equal to 2, connected to this switch. So let's see if this is working. This is set to 0, it's red. This is set to 1, it's green. This is set to 2, it's blue. So just think about the logic of why this works, and you'll see why it works. And now that we have this single controller, we want this controller to be changing over time. So it's animating between 0, 1, and 2, right? So if we can somehow randomize this, will be good. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why not just use a random value node? The issue with this is you can see it has these red connections. It doesn't work even if we change the seed, even if we make it an integer between 0 and 2, which is exactly what we need. You can see it's not working because random value is a field, and fields are, at least in this case, it works off the context of geometry. So we can't generate a random number unless we're generating it in reference to some geometry. So we need geometry for it to be in reference to. In fact, here's what we can do. We can use a mesh line with a single point. So I want you to think of this as literally a single vertex right here. And that vertex is going to inherit this single random value. I know it's weird, but that's how geometry nodes works. So what we can do now is just a little trick. I'm going to use an attribute statistic. So I'm using this geometry, right? It needs to be in reference to geometry. And I'm saying for this geometry, show me my random value and just output the mean. And of course, I need to connect this to the thing. I forgot to connect it. Okay, so let's see what we have so far. We have a seed. As the seed changes, perfect. It's changing between the text. Oftentimes, you're going to see I click it, and it's going to stay on a certain piece of text for a certain while. That's just because it happened to flip heads over and over and over again, as you can see. So we take the seed value, we connect it to something like, I don't know, time. And now every second that elapses, it's going to generate a new random number. So it's getting a bunch of blues and then a green and then a red. And I guess it's going a bit slowly. What we can do here is we can speed it up. Let's multiply it by 2 so we have a faster Stroop test. So again, a lot of green or a lot of blues. I'm already getting confused. And you can see it should be working. Beautiful. It is a bit weird that you get a bunch in the row, but if we increase the number of inputs, so let's say, why not? Let's add one more color. It's easy to generalize, then it should look a bit more flickery and random. So to extend this, I'm just going to add one more switch. The logic is the same. So this time we have orange. We care when this is equal to 3. Connect this, and now extend your random number to also include 3. So now, yep, every once in a while it should be orange. And this makes it look like it's moving a bit faster. Okay, cool. So we have all this. We want this, of course, to be a mesh that we can see. So I'm going to fill the curve. And this is our generator. Now, the next order of business is we need to generate a bunch of materials that it's going to randomly apply. And that needs to be independent of the first randomization process, right? Because the orange text could be blue. By the way, check out this new geometry nodes editor icon. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. Okay, so we need to make a bunch of materials. And I'll actually talk about an issue I ran into in a bit, and maybe you guys could help me understand it. But we need to make a bunch of materials, so let's make a red material. And that material is literally just going to be the color red piped into here. We're going to make 3 more sockets, and let's inherit the red one, make it a new material. This one we're going to call green, so I'm literally just going through the colors and creating new materials for these. Super simple. You could also automate this kind of if you wanted to basically pump in the random number into the shader editor and then use it as a hue. You could do that. So there we have blue. And then finally, we need orange, since I guess we're generalizing to 4. And this one should be called orange. Boom. And what we want to do is have this randomly select between these materials, right? So if I have a set material node, you can see we need to be in rendered mode. Here we have the orange text with the blue color, now with the corresponding color and red. And we need a way to pick between these. Now, the issue I ran into is what you would expect is use a set material index, and that should work, and that would almost be perfect because you could pipe in the random number here. For some reason, not working, and it's not realize instances. Whoops. Maybe it's because I was putting in the wrong node. It's not a realize instances issue. So if you know why this set material index is not working, do let me know. Maybe it's something obvious that I'm forgetting, but because it's not working, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a switch, a random number generator switch, just like before, but this time for selecting materials. So I'm just going to move all this over to the side, anything that isn't relevant. These remaining nodes are basically the ones that are responsible for picking our random thing, whatever it is. So I'm going to hit Control G. Control G is going to turn this into a group, and this actually cleans it up quite nicely so that you can see we have 4 inputs. In this case, it's going to be 4 pieces of geometry, and it's going to output one of them randomly. So what I'm going to do is we could actually this is, again, kind of a weird way to do this, but we can make 4 pieces of geometry. One of them is with the blue material. I know this isn't optimal, but it does work, so we're going to go for it. One of them is orange. One of them is red, and you can see We have now generalized this into, again, 4 meshes, but what makes them different is not their text, it's their color. And we want to generate the randomness between them. So I'm just going to add in my switches. It doesn't really matter what order, as long as we have one of each. And right now, this is important. We can't continue like this. While it does seem correct, you're going to notice. So sometimes it corresponds like orange with orange. Sometimes it doesn't, like blue with green. But notice every time the blue text shows up, it's always going to be green. Why? Because the random number we're generating for this block, for our random number thing, and for this one is the same random number. Okay? Again, it's always going to correspond because we haven't generated independent random numbers. Okay? So this is important. So what we need to do to kind of distinguish this is I'm going to make this its own node group. So make sure you hit that 2 button. Otherwise, it's going to be the same. So hit this. And then inside this node group, what I'm going to do is for this random number generator, all I need to do is just add in a bit of offset. So I'm going to add in 1,000. And you can see now it just so happens that, sometimes it matches, sometimes it doesn't, but it is random, as you can see. So make sure you add in an offset. You could actually add in a seed for this. So what do we want to do? We want to add a input right here. And this is our basically offset seed. So if I set this to 50, it's going to give us something different. I would keep it spaced pretty far from 0, but you can see now it is working. So we have our Stroop test generator. Again, the more colors you add and the more text you add, kind of the more complicated this is going to become. But let's just kind of finish this off. We're going to put it against a white background. We're going to standardize the colors, and let's up the brightness of all our materials. So these should be full vibrance. And now all you have to do is set a camera to be kind of facing on top of this, and you render out the thing, and we have a Stroop test generator. And we can, again, control the speed and stuff like this, but that is obvious. So let's see. There we go, Stroop test generator. So you have to say it out loud. So again, I'm saying out the color of the text, not the piece of text. Here we go. Green, blue, oh, fuck. It's going too quickly. Let's add a speed controller, okay? So I want a controller here for the multiply by 2. Let's add a controller here as well, because again, they're independent. And if we add a value node right here, we set it to 2. Now we have a speed of 2. So let's slow it down to 1. Okay, let's try it again. So again, okay, here we go. Blue, red, orange, orange, green, green, blue, orange, red, orange, blue. Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. So my challenge to you is to try out this Stroop test. You know what I'll do is since this video is sponsored by Squarespace, and we'll get to that in a second, I'll play this Stroop thing in the background, and you can see if you can do it yourself let's do it at 1 time speed. And by the way, you can go crazy with this. Here's like 5 times speed for high level players. Anyways, thank you for watching the tutorial, and now the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. So while you guys are strooping it up in the corner, I want to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. If you're looking to build a website, use Squarespace. You don't want to be using HTML. My website, www.cgmatter.com, is made with Squarespace with their beautiful templates. Just click and drag. I've seriously never had an easier time designing or making a website, so I highly recommend them. 3 features that you might find useful with Squarespace that I definitely find useful. Number 1, analytics. You can find out who is going to your website, where are they from, demographic type information. Second of all, automatic image cropping and all of this kind of formatting stuff so that you don't need to kind of resize, do font wrap. You just click and drag, everything works the way you would expect it to. And thirdly, social feed integration. You want to have your Twitter feed directly embedded in your website, this is no problem. So social feed integration, you don't need to use any kind of code nonsense. And while Squarespace is already super affordable, I am here to sweeten the deal. So listen to this. After you use your free trial to design your website and you know you're happy with it and you're ready to launch, you can use my link in the description to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain, so you can take that thing live and have your website be the glorious thing it was always meant to be. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video.